Hello, John, and or whoever is marking this. So, what I've done here is I've put together a scene of all the different stuff that I've done, and then I'll jump into the actual game and go through the bits that I can't show you in here. So, to start off, the first thing that I really did was all the weapons for the game. So, I was responsible for all of their models, animation, VFX, texturing, all that jazz. So we'll just run through them all here. Here's our energy rifle. It charges up to 3 shots. So there's 1, 2, 3, and fires. And let's reload. Next is the not so minigun. It fires and it reloads. All weapons have a fire rate and reload speed modifier, right? So I can up the fire to 5, super fast. I can put it at 0.1, super slow. Same goes for the reload speed. Oops, reload speed, a little bit more noticeable. Nice and slow. And there it is. All the VFX is done by myself as well. So, moving on to the pulse rifle. Fires. Reloads. Pulse rifle, you can see here, has its own unique projectile, which is also done by myself. Most weapons use the default projectile here. And then the rock breaker is another exception, which uses this, which has its own little distortion effect on it. So, Rockbreaker has, again, firing and reloading. Next is the sniper rifle. Again, same as the others, fires, reloads. This one has a unique little laser sight on it, which, if I rotate the weapon around, will toggle off. Well, it's a little bit broken in this scene, because it's not in the actual game. But in the game scene folder, I will show you it working. Essentially, it toggles itself off if it's not hitting the environment. Now, the standard rifle, this is the very first thing that we ever did. Where am I going? Standard rifle, here we go. Reloading, shooting, just like the rest. And then the shotgun. Reloading, which I've been told does not functionally make sense, but it's fun. I like it. And shooting. Right, that's the weapons. Moving on to our 4 enemies. I'll turn off those. So each enemy has a unique spawning animation, right? So I'll toggle them on here one by one. Box comes in, and there is an asset swap right there at the very end of the spawn animation frames. The actual enemy is spawned in, so it's a seamless swap over. There's that one. There's a spider. And then the bomber drone at the end. So, all these 4 enemies were modeled, textures, animated, VFX all by myself. To show off bit by bit. So, here's our little bomber. This one's unique thing is it can lean side to side as it's turning. It also has little trail effects on it. If I can move, doesn't want to be moved. Has little trail effects on it there. And then the activation animation. This is when it gets into its attack state. Next is the spider. Will note all the procedural leg animation that was done through Tom, not my doing. Although the shooting and the reloading, that was all me. Onto the default enemy. He has his little hover VFX, and then a very simple shooting animation. Now next is the shielding drone. This one was fun, right? It has some VFX work that I coded myself. So if I go in here, I can tell the shielder drone to latch on to anything, right? And no matter how far away or close, the VFX scales and updates with the positions. Very cool, very nice. So, on to the boss. Now, I will say, all the model was done by Ben, all the texturing done by Ben. It's beautiful, if you ask me. Again, Tom did all the legs, and I will show you the animation and VFX, which is what I was responsible for. So, if I do a little test fire here, you can see the laser attack, tracking positions, has trails and stuff on the line renderers and the particles. Then it has 2 phases, right? So I can trigger the phase transition animation. All that VFX there is done by me. Do that so you can see it there. Throughout the second phase of the boss will spew out little blobs of molten lava. These here, they're little projectiles. That was also done by myself. The code, the VFX of it spawning, that was all me. It damages the player, that's all Kate's job. And then finally, it can blow up when it dies. This was all me, a nice big explosion. And it would toggle itself off during that explosion so you wouldn't see it explode. Sorry, you wouldn't see it despawn, I should say. Now, speaking of explosions, we have this explosion here. This is a short circuit explosion, which is from the drone's kind of electrified explosion. And then we have a default explosion. Those are both done by me. Very, very enjoyable. So, next is the environment animations. Now, I will preference everything in this line here, modeled and textured by Ben. I was just responsible for the VFX and animation side of it. So, the most complicated of them all being the doors. So currently they're locked. You can attempt to open a locked door and it'll do that. Then I can unlock the door. This would then preview the item reward behind that door, and then you can open the door. Next is these guys here, these little 3. I did the animations for them. They're all looping animations. I have a script on each to offset the starting animation, so if there's multiple sets of the same prefab, it won't all be in sync perfectly. And you can see another example of the distortion effect there, and some more particles. And I'll just run through the rest of these. Nice big railgun assembly, and the spider assembly. All these are looping perfectly, so it's just kind of idly going in the background to give the world a bit more weight and realism. Now onto the stuff that is animated, modeled, textured by myself. First being the generator floor. Speaks for itself. It's another idle animation for the environment. Now, next is a little more complicated. These are the... delete these. These are the loot boxes, right? For loot that spawns at the end of the combat rooms. So, the first example here, bit of a complicated animator setup. Essentially, it's the one prefab which can spawn either a weapon or a chip, and then any rarity of chip. And I'll show off each, okay? Now, the first one here, we can tell to spawn in a weapon. Here it is spawning in the minigun. And we can open the minigun, and it gets equipped. Here, the next example, we can tell it to spawn level 1 rarity, being common. It'll spawn in, or well, it's 1 supposedly means rare. I think we're going 0, 1, 2 because arrays and whatnot. Anyhow, spawns in, we can tell exactly what it to be, and then we can open it. Next, here we go. These are common. We can also, if say these are my 3 rewards and I open one, we would then lock the other ones. This reward is no longer available to be picked up. And then the last example being a legendary reward, which you can open or lock. We'll open this one. Now, next is the capture zone. This is one of the objectives for combat rooms. This one here is animated. So is charging is here. It's kind of the idle state. This little blue circle in the center is actually a radial filled sprite. So this would fill up as you're capturing the zone. Then, if an enemy were to step onto point, it would switch to this. This would stop the zone from progressing, and then, on complete, plays that animation. Right, now, last and certainly not least, as you know, is the UI. This has been going on back and forth for quite some time. So, let's start with the player's HUD, right? Down here we have our dash, our right weapon, left weapon, our ultimate, and the health bar. All the UI was done by myself. The layout obviously was a team effort. It went back and forth on many occasions. But all the art is myself. The functionality is all through Tom and Dunica, I believe. Now, to show off some of the other art I have done, so here's some animation work here. This is the kind of game over screen when you've died. All of these are the chip icons. I've put together a system over in Photoshop for making sure all the icons are the same size, same style, same clarity. We also have the inventory screen. This was really fun to set up. So the functionality of buttons, that's all through Tom. But this is actually a rendered image of the player, right? So it's, if I update my right weapon, if I toggle it off, you can see it there. If I update my weapons as I go throughout the game and unlock new like legs or ults or like torsos, it'll update here in real time. So you can see all your cool equipment, you can inspect them, all that good stuff. So, I've already gone over my 10 minutes. It's 12 minutes now. Anyhow, let's jump over into the game itself, and I can talk through some bits that I couldn't show you in my own scene. So, pretty much almost all the environments you'll see is through Ben, but what I was involved with is the kind of putting it together. The lighting was a big thing that I learned a lot through doing. Now I can show off. This is the ultimate. That animation of VFX there was myself. I was responsible for making the enemy debris kind of explode out. Gives a good satisfaction. And also indestructible environments like this. So you can walk into a room and really wreck the place before you leave. Now, let's just have a look at some more UI that I couldn't really show you in my own scene, being this menu here, which is for applying loot. So if I would apply that there, Tom has it set up that it would show up here in the inventory screen. And there's another example of our loot boxes working. So a big thing that I did over the Christmas break was a big visual pass. All the lighting I spent a lot of time working on to really ground the game. Beforehand, it felt like we were outdoors. It felt like we were just kind of separated from where the player mech was. It didn't feel like I was a machine in a big factory. But now, thankfully, we do. The approach for that was I really just tried to ground this as a real place. If I jump out of the game view into the scene view and go to wherever my player is, and we check out where the lights are placed, I placed most of the lights assuming there was a ceiling here, and here in the corridors it's much lower. As you can see, if I walk through a door, it feels, the lighting shows that, oh, I'm in a much more enclosed place here, whereas out here the light is higher up, I'm in a more open area. Then what you can see going on here is the walls are separated in two, right? What I've called the upper wall system or upper level system is the walls are too high on the farthest ends of the camera. So over here, this and here are higher up, which gives us a lot more visual space for the environment and assets such as like the floodlights up here and that. But if it's on here, it's not as high, so it's not impeding on the player's actual visual space. And very last, but certainly not least, is all of the audio. I wasn't responsible for making any of the audio, that was Raf. But for implementing, triggering, and managing the audio, that was all through me in the audio manager script, aptly named. So I have systems for sending one-shots through scripts and through animation events. We're managing all the ambient audio, we're managing all the music, even some looping audios as well. And I believe that is everything. There's so much other stuff of just little design decisions and art direction that I can't take sole credit for, obviously, because it was a team effort. But in terms of what I was solely responsible for, I think I've covered everything. Yeah, thank you for listening, John and or whoever else is marking this. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.